Thank you for your interest in using the Urban Institute's Capital for Communities scorecard. To access the scorecard, please visit www.urban.org/C4C scorecard and click the blue button on the page that says Use the scorecard. On the registration page, you will be asked to enter your email address so we can email you a unique project link that you can use to assess your project. You can only enter one email address here. However, once you receive the email with your unique project link, you can share that link with anyone else on your project team who will help you respond to the questions. Once you receive the email, click on the link to be directed to the scorecard. Start by reading the scorecard's instructions and disclaimer, and then click Begin Survey. The first section of the scorecard asks you to enter basic information about the project, such as the project name, a short description, the location, the name of the project sponsor, and the estimated funding needed. You will also need to select the type of project you are assessing, and you can choose between residential, commercial, industrial, operating business, or any combination of these types. This question is important because the questions you get later in the tool will depend on what project types you've selected here. Another important question on this page is the final Show Your Work question, which asks you to define the neighborhood for which this assessment will estimate impacts. There are many Show Your Work questions throughout the scorecard. They are not scored, but they do provide you with an opportunity to share more information about your project. Once you're finished responding to the questions on this page, click Save and Continue. This is the table of contents page, which lists the 7 core social impact areas for which we'll ask you to respond to questions about your project. You can visit these sections in any order that you like and return to sections to revise answers after you've completed them. However, you must answer all of the questions in that section in order to be able to move to another section or return to the table of contents. We'll start with the Community Goals and Priorities section. The Community Goals and Priorities section is one of the most important sections in the scorecard. It asks users to answer questions about their efforts to involve the community in the design of the project, and then rank the community's priorities based on what they learned during these efforts. For example, the first question in this section asks users whether they've consulted recent community plans for the neighborhood. Depending on how you respond to certain questions throughout the tool, you may be asked to respond to another question to provide more detail about your response. The next few questions in this section ask the user whether they have engaged local elected officials and public agencies or engaged residents and community members in the neighborhood. The last 2 questions ask whether the project sponsor is a community-based organization that represents neighborhood residents, or whether the project has a community benefits agreement or advisory board to hold the project sponsor accountable to commitments. The final question in this section asks you to rank the scorecard's 6 social impact areas according to the priorities of the residents in the community you're working in. When you're finished filling out this section, click Save and Continue. On the next page, you'll be asked if there's anything else you'd like to add about the community goals and priorities. This question isn't scored, but it's another opportunity for you to provide more detail about your project that wasn't addressed in the questions. From here, on the table of contents, you can visit any section that you'd like. I won't demonstrate all the sections today, but let's take a look at community wealth building. In the community wealth building social impact area, we ask questions about the extent to which neighborhood residents will benefit from the wealth that is generated by the new investment. For example, the first few questions ask whether the project is owned by women, people from historically underrepresented racial or ethnic groups, or by people who are economically disadvantaged. You can see here that we've included a tooltip for the term economically disadvantaged to clarify how we're using this term. There are similar tooltips throughout the scorecard. The next few questions in this section ask about small business status and contracting and sourcing. There are a few questions about whether the project will incubate new entrepreneurs or have an employee stock ownership plan. The final set of questions in this section are about whether the project has the potential to displace small businesses or create space for new small businesses. This question asking about displacement is what we call a harm question, meaning that an affirmative answer will deduct points from your score because your response indicates that your project has the potential to create community harm. Once you have completed all 7 of the scorecard sections, a blue button will appear on the table of contents page that says Submit Completed Scorecard. On the next page, click the link to download your scorecard. Then click Complete. Now I'll briefly point out a few elements in your project scorecard. At the top of the scorecard, you will see your project name. Below that, you will see your score out of 100 and a description of what your score means. This spider graph displays a project's raw score in each of the social impact areas. The scores are listed clockwise in the order in which you ranked them. At the bottom of the first page is the information you entered about your project in the first section of the tool and a timestamp of when you completed the scorecard. On the remaining pages of the scorecard, we've included a copy of all of your responses to the scorecard questions, including your show your work responses. While completing the tool earlier, I pointed out an example of a harm question, which, if answered in the affirmative, indicates that the user's response has the potential to harm community members or exacerbate inequalities. Affirmative answers to harm questions are flagged in the scorecard PDF with a red marker. Thank you for watching this short instructional video. If you need additional support using the scorecard, please consult our user guide located at www.urban.org/C4C scorecard.